I am joined now by a member of that caucus, Pennsylvania Congresswoman Mary Gay Scanlon, who's on the Judiciary Committee, I should mention, as vice chair, and from the upper chamber, former U.S. Senator Byron Dorgan. He was actually in the Senate during the Bill Clinton impeachment debate. And Mark Thompson, host of the Make It Plain Daily Show and podcast. Senator, I will start with you from the upper house. Your view of what it means that the Democrats are going this far but not farther.
Well, I would say I think Nancy Pelosi is showing real leadership. Look, she has a divided caucus on this issue, and she's right. The first thing you do is investigate. You find the facts, and those facts will steer you towards your conclusion. But we're not there yet. That investigation is not nearly complete, and we're looking for, obviously, criminal violations, not bad behavior. I mean, if this president's giving bad behavior a bad reputation. But the question is, what kind of criminal activity might exist here? And we're not there. And if they get there, they will file articles of impeachment, I expect. But let me say one more thing. I think we have an obligation to do that. Historically, there's an obligation of the House to do this. The fact is, I don't know of one Republican United States senator that would vote for impeachment at this point, and it takes 67 votes in the United States Senate. The ultimate verdict, of course, is about 13 months from today. The American people, I think, are going to throw this guy out.
Congresswoman, bringing you in, and you're on the committee where all the action was, before we get into what that all means, do you think Donald Trump has done things that merit his removal from office?
I personally do, yes. But I think we're in a very different situation than you just mentioned, the Clinton impeachment. In that case, the special counsel gave to the Judiciary Committee all of the investigatory material. We still haven't even been given access to witness statements. And every fact witness we've tried to call in has been blocked by the president. So we're in a very, very different situation right now.
Could I push you on that a little?
Sure.
Just to understand where you're coming from. I think you make obviously a factual historical reference because of the nature of what was handed over. But even before that material was handed over, I think you might agree, or tell me if you do, that the leadership of the then Republican majority in the House was very clear before all the material came in that they thought they had enough evidence, not a court matter, but evidence for their role in the House to say they wanted to remove Bill Clinton from office. And now we're in a position where it seems that Speaker Pelosi is still holding you all back. And I guess my question to you is that a fair distinction, and what happened that you think matters in the committee today?
I'm not sure that we can go by the historical, precedents in this case. First of all, we don't have very many in impeachment, thank God. But the big issue is the rules of the House are different. We no longer have to get House approval for every subpoena. The Republicans changed those rules several years ago, so we're able to proceed in some ways more expeditiously. We've got to have the facts. Think what would happen if we came out and said, we're just going to impeach him and we don't care what the facts say. Right now, there's a couple options. One is the facts prove the allegations. The second is the facts disprove the allegations. And the third is, really what we've been dealing with, which is that the president has been obstructing all attempts to investigate his conduct.
What are you hearing from Speaker Pelosi about what comes next?
Well, I think she's relying upon the Judiciary Committee to do its job. We've got serious allegations of constitutional misconduct, and it's Congress's job, it's the Judiciary Committee's job to independently investigate and make a judgment as to that.
Let me keep both of my congressional experts here with your experience and turn to Mark Thompson in New York. I want to play for you a little bit more of what we're hearing here from the Democrats. Take a listen.
At some point, we'll introduce articles of impeachment and have the committee vote for those articles of impeachment.
I think that it's no secret that we are actually in the middle of an impeachment investigation. This is just going to be a procedural vote.
Do you agree with Chairman Nadler that you are in an impeachment inquiry currently?
Well, I agree with the chairman that we're in the midst of a Judiciary Committee investigation.
Jerry Nadler doesn't do a single thing without Speaker Pelosi's blessing.
I'm not answering any more questions on this subject.
Is this clear or muddled in your view?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me to talk about my favorite subject. Christmas has come early because they are doing this. I don't think it's really muddled at all. I had the chair of the party, Tom Perez, on with me this morning, and I asked him what he thought. And he said Democrats are able to and should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. I think, frankly, what's going on, I agree with Senator Dorgan in terms of the Speaker doing what she needs to do. Frankly, the Democrats did win the midterms on policy issues, health care, et cetera. I believe she feels that they can win 2020 as well. That's true. The Democratic Party's tent and reach and arms are long enough and big enough that you can have members articulate impeachment while other members articulate policy issues. I think we have to do both. There's a segment of the American population that is going to be in favor of one or the other, or some both. That's what governing is. The White House, the executive branch, is not governing. Republicans in the Senate and House aren't governing. So taking on the issues of policy and impeachment are absolutely necessary. And you mentioned, well, you showed the clip of the Republican laying out the case for Bill Clinton and emphatically stating that they're impeaching. Well, she may not have done it on the House floor, but frankly, Congresswoman Jerry Paul did that herself. She said, we're going to impeach the you-know-what. And I think that speaks for itself. If it looks like impeachment, if it quacks like impeachment, it's impeachment.
I appreciate the duck test. Congresswoman Scanlon, I think one of the questions, though, is it really quacking? Because the Speaker is not quacking. The Speaker, as we just played the clip, I'm not going to play it again, says, I'm not taking any more questions on this. And you think, well, if a majority of your caucus supports this now on record, if this is a matter of constitutional dimension and the existential challenges of the Trump presidency, don't you think the Speaker should come out and take all the questions so that y'all can move forward with the public understanding clearly what the next goals are?
I just don't see where the debate is, and sometimes, maybe I'm new to Washington, but it seems like people get completely hung up on process. We've got allegations of misconduct. The House Judiciary Committee is investigating those allegations. The Speaker has signed off on it. And, I think a lot of people want us to put the rabbit in the hat, but what would happen if we came out and said, oh, we're going to impeach him regardless of what we find?
Well, I mean, again, I'm only having this colloquy, to use a congressional word, with you to help understand it, because today seems like one of those weird pivot days. But I guess what I would say back to you is you're saying, well, you can't do this without the facts. But you told us earlier tonight, and many Democrats, a majority, have said this, that you do think the president has already done things that merit removal from office. So I think that's the question for the Democrats. The Speaker, at one point, according to the Washington Post, told your colleagues that the president belongs in prison someday. So if it's that bad someday and those facts have been found, then what else is it that you're looking to uncover?
But Ari,
well, I think
let me go to the Congresswoman and then the Senator.
I think we're talking about scope here. I mean, I quite frankly think that his obstruction of our investigation, his obstruction of the Mueller investigation warrant impeachment, but that is far from the only thing we're talking about. You mentioned hush payments to obtain his election. We've talked about emoluments. We've talked about other misconduct. We haven't been able to get that evidence yet. And just think what would happen. So the Mueller report talked about Don McGahn, the White House counsel, having been ordered to fire the special counsel and then being asked to lie about it and create fake evidence. We haven't been allowed to see his statement. We haven't been allowed to question him. What if that turns out to be wrong? We can't just drag the country through this, for the fun of it. So we do have a job to do with investigation, and we can't do it piecemeal.
Ari, I think in some ways this is kind of a tap dance around words. And I understand it's not unimportant at all. It's important, but the important issue is what is going on really. Not what are they saying, what are they doing? There is a real serious investigation going on, and the Congresswoman just suggested, and I agree, there are implications of violations of law, criminal behavior. So investigate that. Get the goods. Find out exactly what exists, what you know, what you can prove, and then you go to articles of impeachment if you get to that point. So, I mean, I think I understand exactly what's happening. I think the Speaker is doing exactly the right thing. Move ahead, push for the investigations, get them done, then make a judgment about what the future is going to hold in terms of trying to hold this president accountable. The voters, of course, will hold him accountable in a very significant way very soon.
And while it's going on simultaneously, as I think she's doing, stress that there are other issues that the American people are concerned about. I will say this, I don't think it's muddled for Trump and the White House and his attorneys. If anybody watching us tonight were told, hey, the SEC might be looking into you, you get ready for it anyway. I mean, you assume that something might be going on. So I don't think he's confused about it. And I think you have to go through the facts, get everything in evidence, and then you push forward. I think they're doing it very, very carefully, and I'm very pleased.
What I'm going to do is thank all of our guests, Congresswoman Mary Gay Scanlon, Senator Byron Dorgan, and, as always, our friend Mark Thompson.